Good evening. I'd like to call the Tuesday, October 17th, 2023 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Can we all please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I do not have any announcements as of this evening. Is there anybody here for anything that's not currently listed on our agenda? And does anybody need a fireman? Because we have quite a few in the room tonight. For our first agenda item, it is the swearing in and pinning of Fire Chief John Furno.
All right, so please raise your right hand. I please state your name.
I, John Furno,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will perform my duties
that I will perform my duties
as Fire Chief for the town of Douglas.
as Fire Chief of the town of Douglas.
As Fire Chief,
As Fire Chief,
I will uphold and obey
I will behold and obey
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
the bylaws of the town of Douglas,
bylaws of the town of Douglas,
the rules, regulations,
the rules, regulations,
policies, and procedures
policies, and procedures
of the Douglas Fire Department
of the Douglas Fire Department
in a professional manner, so help me God.
in a professional manner, so help me God.
I'd like to have our daughters come.
For the record, Chris gets this emotional with all the
I'd like my son-in-laws to come up because this is all about family. Corey. Thank you.
I just want to thank the board for the opportunity, and Matt for this opportunity. I'm very excited to bring the department in the next phase. Want to thank my department. We got a great group of men and women in this department I'm proud to lead, from the full-time staff to the call staff. I'd like to thank my colleagues. As you can see, we have a great group of District 7 chiefs and firefighters and lieutenants and what have you here. That means a lot. And want to thank my family, because as these guys will tell you, it takes a family to be on the fire department, because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of missed birthdays, it's a lot of missed Christmases, and so on. So I just want to thank my family, and thank you, everyone. I'll keep going. I can do this. Congratulations, John.
Chris, I would, maybe family picture up front.
Okay.
Sure. Of course you can. Which way we?
We can hop out of the way so they can get down
Every time I see him around.
I'd like to invite anybody who wants to come up to 710 Northwest Main Street in town for refreshments and conversation afterwards. Thank you.
So actually, folks, before you guys all
just one thing I want to say to the testament to the kind of man that John is. He's always operated with extreme integrity. And anytime the town of Douglas has ever called on him for anything, John's always been one of the first people to step up and help out wherever he's needed. So I'm sure he's going to be a fine fire chief here in Douglas, and look forward to everything you bring to the department, John. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
There goes our crowd. Can they leave a few behind? Looks like Heather's in a marathon.
Okay, and I believe we've got the folks from the school committee that are up on the Zoom meeting.
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. So our next agenda item is a joint meeting with the school committee regarding some applicants and interviews and possible votes. I'll give the school committee their opportunity to call their meeting to order.
I'd like to call the Douglas School Committee meeting of October 17th, 2023 to order at 7:07 PM.
Excellent.
We do have a member on Zoom, so we should be doing a roll call vote, a roll call addressing or signing.
Sure.
Okay. Monique Salvis.
Teresa Brooks.
Heather, can you hear us?
Sorry, I don't want to stab you.
I think that was
Well,
her.
we got the Heather part.
Warm.
Okay.
There it is.
Thank you.
Excellent. And do we have, the applicants are all here as well this evening?
We do have one by Zoom, I can see, and we do have 2 members in person, yes.
Okay. You want to just go down through these in order that they show up
Yeah,
on the
One
meetings?
thought I was thinking was just having each kind of give a little bit
Yeah.
about themselves, and then if anybody has any questions to ask that candidate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So, do you want to start with Julie Lagerholm?
You want me to come up?
Yeah, please. And I got your last name right? I didn't mess that
Yes,
up?
but my first name's Julia.
Julia, I'm sorry.
Trick question.
We got something to bust Lisa about now.
So you want me to talk about myself?
Yeah, if you could just let us know a little bit about yourself, why you're looking for this position.
Sure, so I wrote a little something just in case you guys wanted to hear from me, so if you don't mind, I'm just gonna read it to make it simple for myself. So good evening, Chairman Morse and Select Board members, and Chairwoman Moran and school committee members. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to introduce myself. My name's Julia Lagerholm, and I'm new to Douglas. My family moved here last February from Millbury, where we were lifelong residents. We came here with hopes of putting down roots and growing as a family. We have 2 young children, my son who is enrolled in 1st grade at the primary school, and my daughter who's preschool age. From when I was young, it has always been my deep belief that taking part in one's community and giving back is essential to a life well lived. In 2017, while my son was an infant, I decided to give back to the community that raised me. So I ran for the Millbury School Committee, and I lost. The following year, I ran again and won. What started out as a way to give back turned into a passion. There is an understated importance to the role of the school committee, as I'm sure you are all well aware. I can assure you I am well acquainted with the time requirements, the difficult decisions, COVID, anybody, and the difficult non-decisions, that which is not in our control. As overseers of the superintendent, school policies, and the largest portion of the town's budget, a small panel of people make very impactful decisions for the students in their charge and the community at large. While I can only ask you to consider me for the current vacancy on the school committee, I can promise you that if I'm privileged enough to sit as a member, I will give you my full dedication and make informed decisions that are in the best interest of the students, their safety, their well-being, and their academic success. Thank you.
Any members of the board want to start with questions?
Sure, I will. So you served on the Millbury School Committee, and you
Yep.
you want more, so right off.
Well, I wasn't thinking about jumping in this quick, to be honest,
Yeah.
but the vacancy is here, so I thought, why not?
And I think that's great. My one question would be, this will be a one-year term to fill until May. Would you plan to run after that? Or are you looking to just?
I think that I would plan to run. I can't speak for future me necessarily, but knowing myself, odds are yes, I would run again.
Thank you.
No, I'm fine.
She pretty much filled all the questions in her bio. I don't have any.
I'll jump in then, and I will ask, so what do you think is the most important thing or things that a school district has to consider to provide the service of education to the community? Especially since you've had the experiences.
Yeah, there isn't only one thing, but the first thing that pops into my mind is safety. I think for a student to be able to learn, the environment needs to be safe. And that means accepting all people. All kids are safe, no matter who you are, or where you're from, or what your parents do, or your beliefs, your religions, and anything like that. So I think safety is paramount.
Okay.
My question is, in the time that you've been in Douglas, what do you see as the greatest successes in the Douglas school system? And on the flip side of that, what are some of the obstacles that you think you've encountered?
So I've only been here for a hot minute.
Yep, I know.
So I'm going to do my best to answer that.
Absolutely.
I think Douglas has done a great job with infrastructure for the students, for the schools. I would say 3 out of 4 schools are beautiful. I look at the primary school and I'm like, oh. And the rest of the schools are glorious. It took Millbury, from my experience, a ton of work to just renovate, or excuse me, to build one, and seeing that the townsfolk put up quite a few beautiful buildings, I think that it is a credit to the town into creating that safe environment for students. As far as hurdles, I'm not really sure. My son's in first grade. Maybe I've heard some stuff, but I haven't experienced it.
That's fair.
So I have to say, the experience so far has been really great. My son's loving school. He loves his teacher. He's really excited about the bus. I would say sidewalks. I know that's later. I'm on North Street. It'd be great to have some sidewalks up there. So other than that, I don't have anything bad to say.
Heather, did you have a question?
No, I'm good. I think she covered it all in the bio, like Heather Moore said. Thank you.
Anybody else?
No, I have no questions.
Nope.
Julia, thank you for coming out. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and it looks like Kevin Rafter.
How we doing, folks?
You're welcome.
Evening.
So,
Intro?
Yeah, absolutely.
So my name is Kevin Rafter. I've been in town about 7 years now. I've been teaching for 10, and I'm starting to kind of look into that next 10 phase now, whether I want to be kind of more involved in building administration, policy creation, curriculum development. And this seemed like a great opportunity to check that out without having to put a sign in my front yard yet.
do you have experience with the Douglas Public Schools in any way?
Yes, actually, I worked for a year in the middle school about 7 years ago. So I got to see kind of the inside, and I ended up moving to town and then working outside of town.
Okay. And then I'll just piggyback that question if nobody minds. What do you see as the things that a school committee really needs to focus on in order to deliver a solid education service?
Well, it's really preparing our kids for the future, right? We need to always kind of be looking forward to see what our students are going to need to be successful moving through the school system and on into the community afterwards, really, and making sure we're doing the best we can to prepare them for that.
My question would be the same that I asked our previous candidate. What do you through your experience, see as the biggest successes that Douglas school system have had? And also, what are the hurdles that we face?
Successes, I would say, the dedication of the staff. I got to see that when I worked in the district, and now I'm seeing it as a parent. I have 2 young children as well, one in the primary school and one in the elementary school. And from the outside looking in, the schools are doing a great job. And I kind of saw that from the inside as well through the dedication of the staff, really, I think is what kind of holds everything together and makes the district so successful.
And do you see any hurdles that we are facing?
I mean, it's the future as well. The unknown really is what you can't prepare for. It's a blessing and a curse in the same kind of right. So you really can't be too sure what's coming up. But I mean, as far as what we're handling now, I mean, I think everybody's doing a great job.
Thank you.
I'll ask the same question. This term that ends in May, do you anticipate making a run for it, elected office-wise?
Yeah, if I'm taken on and things work out, yeah, I could do that for sure.
Questions already got asked.
We good?
All
We
right.
gotta be careful, we gotta ask questions, otherwise, right?
Well, don't you want to ask questions? It's
No,
your
I know.
school committee.
Yeah, it's the time.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. So thank you for asking.
You know,
Thank you for answering.
So I actually have one. Like,
Sure.
if appointed onto the school committee, and I ask this of people that, interview with me on my personal life too, is
Sure.
like, what does your 30, 60, 90 look like?
My 30, 60, 90.
Yep, first 30 days sitting in there. What are some of the first things that you want to jump into and get involved in?
Well, it would be getting more familiar with the school policies. I obviously work outside of the district, so I've been doing a lot of work outside. I'm looking to kind of bring more of that to town, to my own community, really, especially now that my kids are school-aged. And I'd love to get a handle on maybe the principal search for the elementary school. I know you guys are looking, and being able to see it from both ends, as an educator and as a parent as well. It'd be great to get in touch with people about that.
You got anything, Mike?
Nope, you asked me again, I still don't have one.
I'm going to get you eventually. You'll have some.
Eventually, don't worry. There's time for that.
Mr. Rafter, you all set?
yeah, in fairness to all candidates, I
Yeah.
asked my question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
All right,
Mr.
thank
Rafter.
you.
Okay, and then we have Jessica Meg Rodson, who's remote.
Yes, she's via Zoom.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for letting me join you remote. I am on my last business trip of the year. Of course, you guys picked tonight to do this, so I'm sorry that I am not there in person. I guess it's okay to do like a little intro myself?
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
So I am a mother of 3. My family has lived in Douglas for 5 years now. I think this is going into our 6th year of education in the Douglas school system. My children are in 3rd, 5th, and 7th grades at Douglas schools. And so I think I have a great perspective from a parent in Douglas now that I've been through the primary, elementary, and now we're in the middle school. So being able to speak firsthand of, the knowledge that comes with being a parent in those school systems, and in each school, I think is really, the biggest thing that I bring to the table. And I don't want to jump to the high school too quickly, and not yet, but we'll be there very shortly in a couple of years. I also have a child who is on a 504, and I think really I came in here and jumped at the opportunity because he actually needed a 504 back when he was in kindergarten, and so now he's the one who's in 7th grade. So I've been advocating for him for a very long time, and I've become passionate about it, and I think now it's kind of time to take it to the community and use everything that I've learned about advocating for my own children and take it to the town of Douglas and advocate for all of our children. I think too, it's a strength of mine to have my kids a little bit spread out because I know a lot of parents in town I'm a big believer in our government being all about for the people, by the people. And I love that I have connections to so many different parents in towns through different organizations that I can kind of get a handle on what's going on in the parental community, what people aren't aware of or what they should be aware of, what we should be bringing up in the school committee meetings and being addressed. So that's why I threw, my name in for this, and I, welcome your questions.
Thank you, Meg, for being here. I'm just going to ask, and my question that I've asked everybody, just to be fair, is that what do you see? I know our school district has been through a lot with COVID, and what do you see as the most important thing or things at this point that a school district needs to consider for providing the education service to kids?
Yeah, I think everything that the school committee needs to cover unfortunately comes down to budget. So that's kind of one of the reasons that I wanted to be a part of the school committee. Was one of the things that was said at the open house middle school by Dr. Vieira had to do with our Chromebooks and the technology that's being used in Douglas. And it was hard to hear that the town of Douglas doesn't have the funding for new Chromebooks, which the school systems needs. And it came about that we got those initial Chromebooks through grant writing. So of course, as a parent, my question was, well, who did the grant writing? Do we need to do more grant writing? How can we get those funds so that our kids have the technology that they need to keep up in today's world? So I think there's a lot of things that the school committee needs to cover, but that's one of my big, concerns going into this is what are the needs of the schools that are not being met? How can we do that? And kind of getting some firsthand look at our budget and other items that Douglas may not be able to fund at this moment in time.
Thank you.
I'm going to echo the same questions I asked everybody else as well. So what do you see as Douglas's biggest successes? And then also what hurdles do we face?
So obviously my biggest concern currently is retention in the schools. We've just lost our second principal at the elementary school. It seems like we had a lot of turnover within special education last year. So, for me, I think that's a real head turner and a red flag. Why are we losing so much great staff? So I think that's where, a big focus and something that needs to be addressed. But on the flip side, I would say one of the greatest successes I think in Douglas is really the small town atmosphere, and it translates into the school. Be it the teachers, the staff, even the nursing staff, the cafeteria workers. Douglas has succeeded in making our children feel like they're growing up in a supportive environment. I can speak to that firsthand from my own children. I've been really impressed with even now that I've gotten a chance to be at the middle school. Mr. O'Brien has been so wonderful with this really hard time in our kids' lives with that transition. So, my husband and I picked Douglas very specifically when we moved here because of the small town atmosphere. And I really do think that our schools do a great job making our kids grow up in that, which is honestly really hard to find in the state of Massachusetts. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Go for it.
Tee it up. If you were to be chosen tonight, would you run for office again, or is this a temporary solution?
I would. I've actually thought about running for a very long time, but I've held back just because the election thing is a little bit intimidating. But when I heard of this opportunity, I was like, that's a great chance to really get to serve, see what the process is, be more educated on what's going on the school committee in our schools, and then make a more informed decision to run later on. But I have always actually wanted to run. I've just not gotten there on my own yet, but I would love to run for another term after this.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Heather,
Still good.
anything?
Come on, Mike.
No, Heather,
She's got a thumbs up, she's good.
she's good.
Heather's good. Max is good.
Good. I'm good.
All right, Meg, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for letting me zoom in. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. Trust me, I'm missing our small town right now.
So the process would be to go around and,
Weigh them out and
okay.
see what we come up with for a consensus.
We looking to make a decision on this tonight?
I believe so, sir.
Yes.
What if I start with you guys? And then we'll swing it over this way.
Well, are we sharing thoughts, or are we just kind of going around and saying yay or nay per candidate?
Well, I'll start off with some
Okay.
thoughts. Julia, she, in her resume, she has 5 years' experience in it. I like the enthusiasm of Megan. No disrespect to you and the audience. But at this time, I think you need some experience on the board. But it's a hard choice because Megan brings up some very good points.
Well, I will say that this is, we've had vacancies in the past, and it's not something that people are trying, knocking on the door, like standing in line, trying to be part of this board. So people that bring energy and passion and a desire to advocate for our kids is a real nice thing to see, because, our terms are always ending and vacancies are always going to come up. So I will say that whoever doesn't get this spot tonight, I hope that they will stay involved, they will come to our meetings, and they will consider running again. Like, they'll have another opportunity in the spring and beyond that as well. So I really hope that there'll be more attention on joining this board, going forward, so.
I want to say, it's very nice to see, it's not often you see 3 really well-qualified candidates
Agreed.
that actually want to step in, and it's a difficult decision that goes through. I think everybody brings something a little bit different to the table, and I think all would be beneficial to, to the school district. My personal thoughts on it, and again, nothing against any of the other candidates, I like the idea of somebody that's fresh set of eyes, hasn't been involved in the political side of it, and is stepping in as more on the parent and advocate side. So, that kind of resonated a little bit with me, but that's just my opinion.
I have to agree. I was a parent, not involved, and being part of this board has really opened my eyes to how things really work. We have desires, we have wants that we want to bring, but there's a whole lot of hoops and
Absolutely.
factors that you have to consider, being a school district and a town and trying to work together to make sure everybody's accounted for. It's a hard thing to do, but it has helped me learn as somebody who has never had experience before, something I would not have gotten that side of things had I not been part of this committee.
I think all 3 candidates were well-spoken and well-qualified. I agree with Michael. I like the idea of someone who's had experience, especially as we are always kind of facing budgeting issues and everything else on, school committee. I like the idea of someone who's been there, done that. But I also can see the, benefits of each candidate.
I think we can all agree, regardless of which candidate gets picked, we'll be well-served.
Yes.
So, any thoughts, Max?
I guess from my own personal experience, my sister had a 504, like she mentioned, so it's nice to hear one candidate is at least keeping special needs in mind, because my sister had a rough go of it going through the Douglas public schools when she was growing up, because they didn't really take care of her needs. So for me personally, I like that there's at least one candidate who's talking about special needs. I wish if she'd gone first, I would have asked the other 2 what they thought too. But it didn't even come to my mind until she brought it up.
Tim?
I would echo the thought that we have 3 excellent candidates, and I would encourage all 3 to get involved in the town, whether it's on the school committee, the Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, or Conservation Commission, or any of them. Strictly based off of the answer to my question, I think I would support Meg just for her enthusiasm for stepping out there. It's not easy to put your name on the ballot, to stand up in your community and say, select me. And if this is enough to push her into that realm, then that's where I would be.
Ross?
This is a tough choice. We have three very good candidates to pick from. I know it's a short term before the next election. And just having met these people basically tonight, they're very well qualified, and it's going to be a tough choice to make, and I hope it's just not a shot from the hip, that's all. I'm still kind of undecided. I'm flipping through here who I really want to favor. Like I say, it's going to be, for me anyway, it's a tough choice. They all have very strong points. So I'm still flipping through.
Still flipping through?
I have an idea, but I'm still reading here a little bit.
Yeah, just going off personal experience where it takes so long just to get up to speed sitting on this particular board. I would assume that your board's pretty much the same thing. That's why I gravitated more towards the experience.
Well, we have Dr. Vieira is very good at communicating
Absolutely.
when he needs to.
Yeah.
So,
I would agree.
We are lucky in that respect that we're kept in the loop pretty well.
Yeah.
And he's pretty available if we do have questions. So that's been good and helpful.
Yeah.
Heather, you have anything?
I think she's blessing us and saying good luck.
Yes.
I think that was a thumb. Was that a thumbs up, Heather?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to call off mute, sorry. I like both candidates. It's, the enthusiasm of all of the candidates. I highly encourage whatever decision we make tonight. There are going to be, as we go along, like I went unopposed for my candidates when I just ran for re-election. I ran unopposed. To try to get candidates for school committee is like an act of God. So my thoughts are, I think the experience at this point, because just to get you up to speed and everything else, I'm leaning more towards Julia, but I do agree that, we do have folks aren't currently on school committee that are well acquainted with special needs. We have people that with 504s and IEPs. So not to discount that part of it, but we do have advocacy on our school committee board currently today. So that's where I'm leaning more towards Julia versus Meg. And no disrespect to the other, I've got his name, is it Eric? I'm sorry, I don't have anything in front of me because I've been traveling home from a business trip today.
It's Kevin.
Kevin, thank you. I just think that, what we need right now currently, we need the experience, but I welcome anybody who wants to come to school committee meeting, get involved. There is a principal search that Dr. Vera is looking for a community leader as well as a school committee member to be on that board. So there's ways to get involved within our schools.
Beth is also on the Zoom. Beth, did you have any thoughts? She may have stepped away. Just wanted to give her the opportunity.
Sorry, everybody, I'm having very bad technology issues tonight. No, I'm just really excited that we have
Blame me.
two fantastic applicants for this position. I think that, what I really appreciate is I kind of like the outside of the not being involved in the school committee perspective. I think when we come into something different, we ask different questions. And I really appreciate kind of that, not knowing the school committee is sometimes a good thing, because asking the questions that the rest of us should just we kind of status quo. I think that that's important. I don't think status quo is good. I like to question what we're doing and why we're doing it. So.
I know the candidate I am choosing, so I don't know if everybody else is.
I'm ready to vote.
All right. We'll start with you.
So I would vote for Meg Rodson.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to vote for Meg Rodson.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. So we would look for a motion for additional candidates at this point too, right?
I move to vote for Julia.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion for Jessica, Meg, and Julia. Do we have any
You messed
additional
me up when you
motions?
said Jessica. I'm like, Jessica.
Any additional motions for candidates? All right, seeing is none. So let's do,
Well, why don't you just
Zoom.
Right?
do
This is tricky with Zoom.
No, yeah, do them independently.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just do we'll start on the top of the list. For Julia, we'll go down through name and roll call it out as the voting for Julia.
All right, Teresa Brooks, Julia.
Ross Smith, Julia.
Julia, Mike Fitzpatrick.
Anybody remote?
Heather Warren, Julia.
Okay. So that takes the votes for Julia. So votes for Meg. We'll start there. Kevin Morris for Meg.
Bonin for Meg.
Monique Salvis for Meg.
Maxwell Postman for Meg.
All right, now what do you do, Mr. Chairman?
We have one more.
we have
Beth.
one more.
Beth? Beth, can you repeat that?
Could you guys hear me? Beth Bergstrom for Meg.
All right. So our votes are in, and we have 5-4 for Meg Rodson for the school committee.
Congratulations, Meg.
Congratulations, Meg.
Congratulations, Meg.
Thank you, everyone. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get home and get all the information and get started so I can jump in and help. Thank you so much, everyone.
So Meg, where are you traveling to? Where are you?
Oh, I'm in Las Vegas. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a Vegas girl.
Oh, I'm in Vegas. Oh, terrible. I'm in Vegas.
I miss our small town. I keep calling my husband. Is everyone okay? I miss home, so can't wait to get home this week.
All right, well, safe travels and congratulations, Meg.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you to all the candidates who came out. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
It was a pleasure meeting, and please stay engaged and look
you
for
so
additional openings. All right, so
At this time, I would like to adjourn the school committee meeting, October 17th, 2023, at 7:38.
Second?
Roll call vote. Monique Salvis, aye.
Teresa Brooks, aye.
Heather Warren, aye. I'm going to say Beth Bergstrom, aye, because she's having technical difficulties. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
All right. And our meeting with the town moderator for the fall town meeting. Keith Menard and his fantastic hair is here today.
I'd rather be in Vegas. No offense. They have margaritas. You guys don't.
We have water.
See? Get water. if you
That
want.
is a small consolation, Ross. That said, I will be in Phoenix, and if everything goes right, I will be coming back on Sunday night. And if everything goes wrong, I'll be stuck in an airport. Maybe you guys can set up Zoom so I can run this meeting. But I've got a full 24 hours in order to, have the airlines screw me over. Yeah, all right. So anyway, let's just jump right in. The two biggest ones on Article 1, increase ambulance wages and public school personnel expenses of $100,000 and almost $200,000. General. Why?
Can you repeat the question? I was thinking about something about being stuck in an airport in Phoenix, because I've done that. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it's
Some really warm memories.
Yeah.
Which?
So the Article 1, the two largest expenses that stick out are the ambulance wages and the public school personnel and expenses. So I was just kind of wondering what the drivers of those two were.
So on the ambulance side, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yep.
It is our intention to make a permanent fixture of the budget starting next spring, a system of per diem employees and call employees who will cover 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, to give us an additional person in the station so that 2 ambulances can run without hiring a fully benefited full-time firefighter, or more than one, to work those shifts. Based upon our new growth certification, which was a fairly robust number, and the fact that we need this staff now, because we are, constantly battling the recruitment and retention battle and trying to keep all of our shifts fully staffed. Since the funds were there, we'd like to try to hire these people, or start hiring them, before May, before town meeting, actually before July 1st. So that's an estimate of the funding it would take to cover that number of hours at the target rate of pay. As for the schools, they came in right at the end of the budget process last year, as you may recall, saying that they were $327,000 short of where they felt they needed to be to fully fund the budget that had been established by the school committee. They have subsequently filled that with a drawdown of their reserves to fund the superintendent's, or the last iteration of the school committee and superintendent's budget. We pledged that we would have a series of meetings with the school department leadership to determine if the town would be willing to step up and work with them to address some of that shortfall. And the answer was yes. In my view, I only want to pledge to backfill their budget with so much revenue as we can identify as recurring. So not a one-time transfer from a one-time revenue source, but looking ahead to future budgets saying, we could keep this commitment. We will, for the most part, be able to keep that 187 into the budget as additional, plus the 2% we had already promised. There's a little bit of difference there. That's where those two major items come from.
Okay, so both of them basically setting up for the next annual.
Yeah.
Article 3, stabilization. Oh, yes, this one. I should probably know this answer by now, but every now and then when I'm reading through these, there's something that says I should know that answer, and I don't, and so I'm going to ask the question. Waterways receipts. What is the funding source of waterways?
It's receipts reserved for appropriation. Half of the boat excise goes into a receipts reserve appropriation along with the penalties for vessel. So every...
Penalties for what?
The boats. If they don't pay them on time, they get charged a penalty.
Oh, okay.
When it's a boat excise. So every 3 or 4 years, the account kind of builds up to a point where we can transfer like 10,000 out, and they will use it for programs and repairs for boats and things related to that.
Great. Article 7, highlights of the new contract. Usually anytime we do that, I ask for some slides that just kind of give the high-end overview of that.
Now, this group of employees, a very small group, did unionize and they are part of the larger so-called COPS union. And this profession has changed a great deal, and they now have a number of certification programs that they have to complete, and, you know, a professional path of development that they will go on after they've met those original requirements. We had determined, with very little controversy, both on the management and labor side of this conversation, that we are grossly underpaying our dispatchers. We're having significant difficulty retaining staff, to the tune of 20 to 25% below what competing towns were willing to pay on a per hourly basis. So knowing that that big jump was going to be in place, we gave that group of employees a 6% COLA in the spring, try to build up their base salary so it wouldn't be such a huge jump once the contract was finally negotiated. And so now we're looking for the funding. And that's that police department, I think it's $34,000.
Yep.
That will fully fund this contract.
Okay.
It was the practice in the past to treat dispatchers much like police officers and extend many of the benefits of the police officer's contract to this group of employees, even though they were not unionized. They were working in that general space. This contract formally acknowledges and establishes those practices as binding on both sides. There was an ample amount of give and take around different forms of leave and, you know, length of vacation. So in the end, we struck a fair balance. Chairman Morse was on that negotiating committee. I don't know if you have anything you want to say about it.
No, I think it was a fair and equitable contract. Everybody walked away happy. So, and they were very reasonable in all of their requests and asks. There was nothing crazy in it.
Yeah. So basically, like I said,
excuse me, the biggest change for the town is the salaries.
yeah. So just a, you know, like I said, a high-level slide or two, just to, you know, kind of highlight the, you know, the details on that. Okay, and then moving into the Article 8, the solar bylaw. I had not seen this used before, and admittedly, I don't spend much of my free time perusing zoning articles unless they appear before a town meeting. Not a hobby of mine. So I was curious, it says it may request that the applicant agree to toll the required time periods. And I had never heard that term before. Should I have?
Well, we're just going to have to send you to law school so
I
you
guess
can learn
so.
at least one term. Tolling any statute that has a period of time associated with it, once the clock starts to toll, well, what is the first day of the period of a 30-day period? And then every day after that, you count down.
Okay.
We call it that because from time to time, like with COVID, a permit may expire after 60 days, but in COVID, they stopped the tolling of the statute.
Okay.
And wouldn't restart it until another date in the future. So you still only got 30 days, but it's almost like you took an absence from the process. But that's basically what it is, just the clock ticking on a time-limited period.
And now I know. And knowing...
And aren't you glad I spent all that money to learn it? I'm not.
Yeah, okay, so this was another one. Section C, Chapter C, Section C, I guess. 68133, the amount shall include a mechanism for calculating increased removal costs due to inflation. Is inflation the only driver of costs that can be included there? In other words, if at some point they say, look, this is now deemed some classification of hazardous material that is going to increase cost exponentially to dispose of, is there something that protects the town from those kind of escalating costs? It's under decommissioning. at the end.
Page 6.
The mechanism for calculating. That's a good question for town council. I'll give you half a council's opinion. That the phrase "due to inflation" is sufficiently broad to include any cost that has grown, because the cost has inflated.
Yeah.
It's not tying it to a measure of inflation such as the consumer price index, in which case you would be limited to that metric. Having said that, it's probably too vague. And the only question would be, could we change this language with a minor floor amendment? Would you consider that to be within the scope?
Yeah, it would just depend on what that is, you know, what.
I would actually strike the language. So I would simply say the amount shall include a mechanism for calculating increased removal costs.
I don't have an issue with that. Okay. Okay, we're doing this one again, huh? The door-to-door salesman. Yeah, I mean, the only one I look forward to more than this is is a sign bylaw.
Yeah, even had a rock and roll.
Town meeting's going to go to 11 now.
Yeah, yep. You know, we always try to guess how long town meeting's going to take, and yeah, there's a couple of these that just totally threw my clock off. Violations. Each violation of any provision of this article shall be punished by a fine not to exceed $100. Is that per house? Is that per day? What is the actual violation?
Each violation. So reading that, each violation, you could have multiple ones in the same day. So
That's
if you got a
my assumption
violation,
as well.
you just kept on your merry way,
Yeah.
and they came back out again, you're going to get another violation. Depends how much you want to spend in Vegas that day.
So, which leads me to my next question is, how do sales organizations find out this exists? Because it seems like some of them would find out the first time they were fined. And at that point, they could have already racked up $1,000 in fines.
The larger organizations usually, at least from my experience, would reach out to local towns if they were planning on doing the canvassing to see if there's a solicitation bylaw in place. Like, companies would already be caring for that. The one that's sketchy and it's just good practice, but I'm not sure how we'd get it out to them. Some of the smaller businesses just go in and start canvassing, you know, and then it would be found out the hard way. So I don't know how we would actually advertise that we have a no solicitation bylaw if it's adopted.
Well, if we go back to the sign bylaw and we make a sign big enough that says, entering Douglas, no soliciting.
I'm down with that. It works.
I don't know, it's just something that, yeah, kind
I
of,
can't speak for the police department, but I would assume that what they're going to do is they'd come out and you came into town. Look, there's a bylaw, come down, go through the process, get your little permit, get your background checks, and you're good to go. Right? Then you're going to know. They're not. I don't think they're going to come out, they find you the first time and you're innocently going around doing your solicitation and just whack you with a fine. I don't think, that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to stop the nonsense and that people don't want the solicitation. Right? And if the people that are opposed to the bylaw, all they have to do is not even put their name on the list, and they can have everybody come to their house and sell them whatever they want to sell them.
I have no dog in the fight one way or another. You know,
No.
I don't have a sidewalk. People tend not to come
I don't
to
have
my
a sidewalk either. I'm down on Southwest Main Street, and I still get people knocking on my door at 8 o'clock at night, and I'm 100 feet from the street, so I would put my name on the list.
my street, I just have people thinking it's a cut through to 16, and then they're like, ooh.
Well, that's because that's
Yeah,
what
I
I
can't
tell them
get
when they
people
knock on my
trick-or-treat.
door. I tell them to go down Churchill and get right out to 16.
Yeah. Anyway, like, it's just
No,
a
but-
couple things to think about, that might come up in discussion at town meeting. Article 10, that's just to study doing the upgrades or updates.
That's for the engineering for Depot Street. So we've appropriated or encumbered, that's the word that he wanted to teach me, along with tolling. We encumbered $1.4 million out of the opera funds for the upgrade of the water line on Depot Street. So the engineering portion is coming out of that article.
Yeah, so I guess just what I'm saying is that there's no backhoes going in there. It's just the study of
Just engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a study, it's design.
Yeah, design engineering.
So that it will become the bid package.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could put it back home.
Use my words more carefully.
Yeah.
Citizens' petitions. You guys have nothing to do with these. My question, and it's something that I'll need to talk to the petitioner about, but
Sitting behind you.
He's here.
great. Do you guys have any issues with him or her coming up? It's him.
Come on up, Justin. I won't tap on the seat.
How you doing?
Hey, good, how are you?
Good. So my question
Yeah, go ahead.
through Board of Selectmen is on Article 12, and I'm not going to go into the intent of why you're suggesting a bylaw rather than a zoning amendment, because intent is not my jurisdiction. However, what I'm wondering about is Section C, sorry, E, refuse to get glasses. Should any provision of this section of this bylaw be deemed invalid or unenforceable, all other provisions shall remain in force and effect. What I'm wondering about is if this goes before the AG, and certain parts of this get struck down, especially where it is a bylaw and not a general bylaw and not in zoning, is what kind of hodgepodge do you wind up with for regulations? Like, say she strikes the, or she or he, the current AG?
Is a she?
She? I cannot think of who it is right now.
We'll go with that.
Thank you. If she strikes down, or her office strikes down, the no greater than 5 dwelling units portion of this, like what are you left with where zoning has to now try to reconcile the remnants of this with their current zoning
Well,
bylaws?
if you're striking down that portion, then I can't imagine the AG would look at the remainder of the at that point, the article, and say that there's anything left, right? I'm sure they would make an intelligent decision to say, we're striking this as a whole.
Who's currently, Keith, is a 15 unit limit. So he's trying to reduce it to 5.
Okay.
If I can make a comment back on that. But I understand that provision is no longer in force. There's an expiry associated with it, and it expired, I believe, back in 2015. So I don't believe there's a limitation at all.
Is that limitation found in the zoning bylaws or in the?
It's under, actually, it's not identified.
So then I am going to ask, why are we looking to create a general bylaw rather than amending the zoning bylaw?
Well, I think that that's a good question. So the intent here is that that this provision would apply across the board to the entire town and not selectively to any particular zone or area within the town.
And does our zoning bylaws not currently do that?
That's a good question. So I guess it depends on what portion of zoning you're referring to. So I would imagine that the zoning, and I'm not an expert on Douglas zoning law, but I would imagine that you have certain laws or portions of law that apply to certain zones differently than others.
But the zoning bylaws apply to the entire town.
That's true.
Okay. So again, I'll ask, why a general bylaw and why not an amendment to zoning?
There's also, so there's a couple of, I guess, probably technical reasons. So number one, the effectivity of such an article would be upon the approval by the AG's office and not the date at which the town meeting voted upon it. And the concern was that anyone who wanted to circumvent that article could stick in a permit application and then circumvent that particular bylaw if it became effective. Because they could put that permit application in, and then the zoning law that's effective at the time the application is submitted is the one that prevails.
And if that, because there is a part in here that says basically, as of the passing of this is when the toll shall start. What happens if that, I'm back to the severability, what happens if that part is struck down?
The severability part?
No, the part about it starting when this passes.
Well, the zoning law that you have today, which is no longer effective, has such language in it. It's just basically copied from that. So I would imagine that there's already some reason to believe that would be acceptable.
Okay. So at town meeting, the way this will work is you will come up and move Article 11 and Article 12. You'll stand there to field questions. At the end of the question and answer, you'll be seated, and at that point, then debate would start.
Okay.
And you'll be treated just as anyone else.
Okay.
But it'll be up to you to field and defend the questions. Obviously as I call on people, and you would need the motion as well as the second.
If I may, just to be clear, my name is Justin Picciarello. I'm a resident of Attleboro. I'm a taxpayer and a landowner here in town. And I'm here to facilitate this article on behalf of the proponents of the article who, feel more confident in me describing the technicalities. Would I still, knowing that now, would I still be the one that makes a motion to?
You can't make the motion.
That's my understanding, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So you need someone to make the motion.
That won't be a problem.
And then that person will then defer to you, just as, we would when somebody in town makes a motion, and people might, defer to Matt to answer the questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for the clarity.
I have a question on this. Wasn't this petition, the limit on the building on scenic roads only? No?
sorry.
That was just the earth removal?
Yeah, earth removal is related to the scenic roads only, and the other one is across the town.
Yeah, I haven't seen the petition yet, so.
So, in a nutshell, our zoning bylaws say 15,
But, yeah.
That
Right.
may not be effective.
but they're not effective, and you're seeking to codify 5.
5 per year, yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions for me regarding the procedures and how things will be run?
No, I mean, I think what you described is good for me. I can hopefully muddle through, and if there's any issues, please feel free to point them out to me. But no, I think I should be good.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions for me? Like I said, it should just be pretty standard fare for how we normally run.
Are you going to do your usual, like, what was it? Any dissent or whatever it is?
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Yep.
We call that Menard streamlining.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I wish I could say I came up with it. It's borrowed from other moderators. That was unanimous consent.
Unanimous
Yes,
consent.
is the word we were looking for.
Yes.
Yes.
At least until we get to the no solicitation, and then we know we're going to be there for at least an hour and a half.
Yeah, I don't think we're getting unanimous consent on this.
Matt had something.
Yeah, man.
So my question is for the board as well as for the moderator. We had some protracted back and forth around the setting of the date of the meeting. And at one point, it seemed fairly certain we were going to push this forward in November to a late town meeting. Right about exactly that time, my wife made significant travel commitments for us. And then town meeting got moved up to exactly the period of time when we're not going to be in town. Now, it really would not be difficult for me to get to a business center at the hotel, and I would rather do that than not be there at all. That's my personal, this is just a snafu. So 3 hours out of my life on a vacation's not a big deal. I know more about many of these.
Are you going to be in Vegas?
Even half asleep, I can still recover and answer most of the questions about.
So half asleep says you are not going to be in Vegas.
You're only asking
No,
if
I'm
he's
in
going to be in
California,
Vegas,
so
so you
it'd
can
be
be
4
there
o'clock in the
remote too.
afternoon.
So, and I might be in Arizona, so, it could be,
A real tag team. But I don't think it would be appropriate for either town council or the finance director to have me on the phone. I think everyone to answer questions or be a resource to the town, there would have to be a way to have a remote presence, or not do it at all. So I leave it at your.
Well, the schools do have internet access. That's an on-file for outbound, and we do have.
Sign the last warrant, they still have internet.
it is,
In November.
I will tell you, the last time I had to do an overflow meeting, which is essentially what this would kind of wind up being like.
I remember that meeting.
The tech in that place was abhorrent, and the understanding of the tech in that place was even more lacking. Now, the person that I worked with at the time
Teams or Spaces.
is no longer there. So it's possible that the understanding of the technology that is in that building has improved
Or gotten worse.
or gotten worse.
Are you rolling the dice?
I just know. If you don't know it's there, you don't know.
But I just think we have an oversized monitor, and if we're on Microsoft Teams or Avaya or any of them.
Oh, do you remember Max Headroom? That's what we need. I want a TV with his head glitching out. That'd be great.
Wow.
Wow. I'm
Matt,
glad
we
I'm
could
so deep into your fantasy
I am
life as
in.
moderator.
I am 100% in.
We could actually use something like
There
that.
must be something to it, because that's the second time today there's
That
been a
Max
reference.
name has
to
come
this.
up in a
Get out.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. I'm glad I could be part of that. And the fact that anyone probably, you have no idea what we're talking about. Nope. None. None.
I would be happy to go down and check the internet speeds and things at the school. It doesn't take long to do that.
If you're willing to accommodate.
I am absolutely, I mean, yeah. There's nothing in our bylaws that say, at town meetings, just kind of, some of that stuff is like, we can't do this. You know what I mean? Like this, you can't vote in absentia. However, there's nothing saying, I would treat it the same way as I would when I normally ask for permission for you to be able to speak. Which is the same umbrella that you'll wind up under, which is, we have people who offer information to town meeting. Is there any dissent to allowing those people to speak? They could, grant you an early vacation and say no, but I've yet to see that ever happen, so.
Okay, bye.
Could just do it on.
Yeah, yes, we do not want to hear from those people, thank you.
I just don't want the meeting to bog down with people searching for an answer or not remembering where something is that I might know offhand.
But Keith is also keeping the option open in case he's stuck in Arizona.
It's true. But
I couldn't.
I don't think you can moderate it remotely.
No, there's a huge difference.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
There have been town meetings where I've not said a word.
Me too.
But no, there's a moderator, so you have to say something. And then there have been others where there've been very detailed, specific questions. You have to have an answer. It's town meeting. People are going to be voting, so.
Yeah. And if you're available, Gene has to talk less, which makes Gene happy.
Makes Gene very happy.
Yeah.
That is one of our central goals as an organization.
We could always have Chris Furno speak on his behalf. We know how she loves to public.
I was going to say, if I'm not there, Chris will poison my next Mountain Dew. If I got to start driving, that might.
But you can have some fun with her first.
You should.
I've been doing that for, I don't know, 10 years now, whatever it is.
She might be watching this meeting.
But she knows that you're traveling.
Yeah, no, she doesn't yet.
Oops. Now she does.
All right. We all done with that?
I don't see anyone from the school here, so we'll need to reach out to them and try to do like a little bit of a tech test.
I can reach out to them and coordinate something to make sure that it'll work.
Okay.
Because
essentially what we could do is like you said, I mean, honestly, like I am like kind of thinking the max headroom thing of, if you have a monitor with Teams or whatever you guys are using, and that laptop gets its own microphone channel, you basically have the voice of God coming through, and that would work pretty well, I think. And I use that term as in the theater sense.
That's doable.
Yeah, I think it's very doable. It's just a matter of making sure that we have the appropriate tech to be able to do it.
Yep. Sitting right there.
True.
So I can just bring that over to the school and test it, make sure that it works, and you can give it its dedicated microphone channel, and you're off and running. And then it's just the inbound video that's easy to deal with too.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
I like problem solving. That's fun. All right. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you all for your help, or for your time.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff.
I think I sent you a PDF.
Send me both. I mean, I can create a PDF out of the Word, but it's when I'm making my slides, I kind of pull from here and pull from there. And
Special town meeting warrant.
Sometimes Word's easier, sometimes screenshots of PDFs are easier. It just all depends. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you too, Keith.
Thank you, Keith.
So at this point, I would be looking for a motion to approve and sign the fall special town meeting warrant.
So move.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Wording?
Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye. We have an open space request for Select Board letter of support for the 2023 Open Space and Recreation Plan.
Come on up.
Come on up.
Come on up.
You don't get to hide, you come up, sit with us.
So how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good evening. This late in the year, do you want us to change it to 2023, 24?
I think that would be probably a good idea for the whole, we'll see when it gets approved, I mean, you know, I mean, they can just.
No, it's 23.
Yeah, I mean, but if it goes in at 24, then we get 7 years.
Yeah, but the letter is.
Yeah, the letter is 23.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever the name of the title, it's fine.
I thought you meant the title.
It was a good thought, Tom.
Space and Recreation Plan.
There's a reason for it, but
Recreation Plan, dedicated board.
Recreation Plan 23.
Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Anything?
I don't have
You
any.
always do. Don't even. Don't act like you don't. I'm gonna coax it out of you.
Well, hopefully this will get us on track as to how we're supposed to be moving forward with the 61.
Right now, you guys are doing the letter of support.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Anybody care to make a motion on said letter of support? Motion to sign. Yes.
To sign the letter that's in your packet.
So I'll motion to sign the open space request, or the open space and recreation plan 2023.
second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're good with that. And then we have the first read of the Chapter 61 in policy. Is this posted up on the town website? Chapter 61?
No.
No, it's a first read
Yeah.
of a policy.
Do I need to read through the whole thing? I'm kidding.
No, I guess there's dead air, and I did spend some time in the radio business. Dead air is no good.
No.
The Open Space Committee worked very hard, and we're very thankful to them for the time and diligent effort put into translating the requirements of the 61A statute into a policy that will direct staff activity here in Town Hall. I think we have committed, all of us, to one another to treat Chapter 61, 61A, and 61B notices of intent to convert with a much higher level of priority. You know, in the past, we had very few of these, and those that I recall us doing before Lisa took that job and when Suzanne was doing the process, it was typically a large family estate, and either the last remaining holder of the estate or a couple of the heirs would say, can we have a house lot? And the larger parcel was just breaking off a piece. So this level of rigor that is necessary to actually work with the statute was not part of our regular organizational response to this notice. But what the committee has done here is in my view, Mr. Chairman successfully translated the requirements of the statute into a series of deadline and timeframe-driven process steps to allow the Select Board to be fully informed and proactive in its assertion of the town's rights of first refusal on Chapter 61 qualified properties. So I'll leave it at that. If the committee members want to say any more about it, I'm sure they do. I'll just be quiet.
Can I ask one quick question, Matt? I'm sorry. Go ahead. You ask yours first.
Lisa Melzinski from the Open Space Committee. That is exactly what we did. We also, Matt Benoit was kind enough to run this by town council. At the very end, there is also a recommended sentence that we included, giving a bit of flexibility if needed. But a lot of this is Massachusetts general law that says you do have to do this under certain specific time frames. And this needs to be tweaked a bit, but because some folks learn a little better visually, I just wanted to give you a copy of a flow chart that has some of the details so that you can see a little bit better how this moves through the process.
Thank you.
And so, also just to be clear, this is Chapter 61, which is agriculture. I'm sorry, Chapter 61 alone is forestry. 61A is agricultural lands, and 61B is recreation. We have all three of those classifications here in town, and you can always ask the assessor about properties that are classified. So this also became really critical with the open space and recreation plan because we can work with a lot of maps and we can see where parcels, their sizes as well as their locations throughout the community. And as the administrator said, there are a lot of gray areas that started to develop over the process in recent times, and so we thought it would be best to try to have a policy to adhere to moving forward. So
Thank you. In light of some of the recent activities that we've had coming up regarding 61, is there a provision in here regarding A&R lots?
Well, no, there wouldn't be, because what is going to trigger this process isn't going to be the form of approval sought by the planning board, as town council has apprised us, and we most recently actually implemented this kind of process, really kind of followed this almost exactly, in response to an A&R notice, because the A&Rs that were created were too small to continue to qualify as Chapter 61. So de facto, it was a notice of intent to convert those lots. Even though they did not formally file that piece of paper with us, we started the clock immediately the day we received those A&Rs.
Okay.
I've been around land use law for a long time, and the A&R thing is not solely Massachusetts, but it's a little bit of an odd duck. So you can create a rather significant number of subdivided lots, provided you meet all of the necessary requirements. In a lot of jurisdictions, that would be called a minor. At least in Rhode Island, we would have called that a minor subdivision with very few, with no variances requested. And it would have gone through almost as fast as an A&R, but it would avoid this odd, it's called approval not required, and yet we schedule a hearing to discuss it and they vote on it, the planning board. But the way it works in Massachusetts, you really don't have a choice. If someone has sufficient road frontage and sufficient acreage, if that, depending on which zone you're in, you really are pretty much not able to have any regulatory impact on them. Therefore, someone who owns a lot of land and wants to maximize its value in the 61 process and converting it would convert those into house lots, because the value of the house lots would be substantially higher than one house many acres of backland. The only other thing I want to say about this is because I think this is not something that people commonly encounter in their lives if you are not from a farm family or deal with land much. The right of first refusal is a very significant property right. And people pay a lot of money for the privilege to be the first person allowed to offer on a piece of land. And you can construct the right of first refusal in a number of ways, but it is something that you should walk away from lightly in any case. There should always be significant deliberation on every piece of property that comes up under 61, because that property has been privileged for a very long time. It may have been paying tiny, minuscule. We actually make less money as a town on 61 land than we do on Pilot per acre. So, and we can only claw back 5 years. So if the land's been in 61 or 61A for 50, 60, 70 years, you're only going to collect the last 5 years of worth of taxes and as open land, not as what you're going to get it for. So it's a significant transaction, and that's why from time to time when people play games with it, it's cause for significant concern. So in order for the town to preserve its rights, it should always follow a policy like this. I think as an administration, we're really excited that the committee did this and hope that you approve it at third reading.
One thing that I don't see captured in here, this talks about the notice of intent. So you have a scenario like we just went through. It goes to the, unfortunately, people paid attention and it came to your attention. But if you have a piece of property that's in chapter and you go and do an A&R lot, you have to rely on the employee down there to report that as being converted to an A&R lot. It wouldn't necessarily be caught. So should that be incorporated into this, that and make it a policy that any land that's in 61 would automatically get circulated to the administration office?
So the answer is yes, that should be the case. I think this policy does that. But what you're capturing is slightly different, and I think we have the answer to that question, is before anyone stamps that an A&R application has been accepted, because that does start to toll a statute. We should do the same thing we do with building permits, is you run it through the process. Have you signed off on this? Have you signed off on this? Have you investigated the following issues? And one of them should be, is this parcel currently in a chapter 61, 61A, or 61B protection situation? And that way you flagged it right up front as soon as you get that application.
Yeah, I just didn't see that in this document. That's why I asked the question.
Well, because this document basically starts with an applicant versus the permit process. It starts with the owner saying, I want to remove my property or I want to change its use, versus I'm applying for a permit to build a house on a lot, which would, I think, trigger what you just said.
Building.
So I'd be all for that, or we'd be all for that, but
Well, I just want to, the reason why I bring it up is it's easy for it to slip through the cracks. So the scenario that Matt was talking about, having it signed off, I work in a lot of towns throughout the Commonwealth, and the majority of them has all these departments sign off before they'll even accept a zoning application. And here, it's been the practice that you hand in the application, it gets stamped in, and now the clock is ticking, and we haven't got all our answers. So that's why I brought it up, to make sure that we don't fall through the cracks, especially in light of a recent piece of property that could be of interest to the town.
and I also want to point out that a significant difference is if it's the parcel's being sold or if the use is being changed. because if it is being sold, the application has to come in with a purchase and sale agreement, so you know a price. If it is not being sold, but the use is being changed and the town is interested, then it's up to the town to get an appraisal and to create a price.
Yeah, I just don't want to rely on the property owner being the one to tell us that they're doing something. Is to try to, because if they just try to break off a piece of land because their neighbor wants to buy it, for argument's sake.
It's incumbent upon us, though, when this thing walks through the door,
Yeah.
frankly, I don't know the clerk has any choice but to stamp it. But the first thing you do is look at, this is an open piece of land, march right over to the assessor's office. It's a very, very quick check. We just got to get in the habit of doing that. It needs to be a policy that we do that so that we don't miss that step and have it languish for 28 days or whatever, and then we miss the opportunity to have the appraisal.
It might fall
There's
under.
really no way to stop somebody from, sorry to interrupt, but there's no way to stop somebody from trying to be sneaky about this and try to get it past us. At the end of the day, there'll be people who form that intent and try to do it.
But if you have a definition of what a complete application would be, they could get something stamped in, but if
We
it's
put the
incomplete,
onus on
it's
the applicant
incomplete.
to disclose whether their property is subject to 61 before they.
Right.
That's through the
But it's just, there's so many different people, so many different departments that you need to go through in here. So just making sure that it's captured, because here identifies this office, the administration office, so, and then they're gonna circulate it to the other ones. If it's gonna go, this is most likely gonna go through community development, when you're trying to do an A&R a lot or something like that. So that needs to be circulated around. There should be some sort of checklist that you have to have done. Down in Harwich, they made me go to every friggin' thing to get it all signed off before they'll even, once it was signed off, okay. And then they walked me downstairs and had it stamped in at the clerk's office. They wouldn't even accept it until it was 100% complete.
So who made the checklist?
The ZBA down in Harwich did it for theirs. So it must be something that we could look into and find out if there's a policy. Or,
I don't know if ZBA is I think you are. I think the select board has to drive the bus on this, and I think this form of policy is the right vehicle.
Yeah.
We just need to add this.
well, for this here, but I'm
This
just
draft.
saying for an A&R lot or something like that, if it's part of the checklist from community development, then you have to go get it. All right, there's been, paid your taxes, that's signed off, all right, all this stuff is done. You go to the assessor's office, they're gonna sign off on it, that's one of the people on the checklist on that particular form. They go to the, now, assessor's office, you got a problem here. We have this issue here, they flag it, so then you're aware of it.
I'm not 100% familiar with our process, but I believe there is a threshold question of proof of ownership when you come in. Only the owner can apply for an A&R. So that is a question for the assessor's office. So at the same time, the assessor should also check to see if the land is protected that way.
And this is what I'm talking about, so it's a little unsure for us, so
Right.
it may be unsure for them as well.
But it's part of the proof of ownership.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a right, we always, I guess I'm doing memory lane with law school tonight, but we always talked about property rights being a bundle of smaller items that created interest in property. Once the right of first refusal has been given to someone, you don't have ownership free and clear. The land is encumbered by the requirement to offer that land to the owner of the right of first refusal. So in certifying ownership, the assessor's office should be making sure that there is no 61 encumbrance on the transaction. So I think we can capture this. I don't think it's going to take a lot of writing. But that's why we do a three-step process for policy.
No, I get that.
So to be clear, is that the board doing that, and then on the second reading, we figure out if we need to tweak it, or how does
Now,
this work?
from now to the second reading, we'll come up with language that captures this conversation and add it to a red-line copy of this policy, and that will be the new vehicle.
Okay.
But it won't need to be read 3 more times. That will be, you'll be at the second reading. Okay?
Anything else? So we have department updates.
We all done with these?
Yep.
Signed this evening, ready for you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Is Mr. Benoit remote or?
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have to ask that we pass over community development.
Yeah.
Mr. Benoit's unable to attend tonight.
Okay.
Can we passing over
Can we
both of
pass over
them?
Bob?
No, he's here.
Oh,
Are we sure? Bob.
Bob, who, you know, with all respect, Mr. Chairman, Bob has been a bit of a pinata this week and has come out of it more or less intact. He's not leaking candy yet, but...
You've been getting slapped around a little, Bob?
No, it's just events have sent us
but if I didn't pick
sideways.
on him a little bit, he'd think something was up.
Nothing will stick tonight. Good evening, Board, Town Administrator, Lisa. Economic development, I guess this week, past 3 years, we can sum it up in 2 words: surprises, challenges. It's the newest department on the block. We're downsized, we're down to 1 employee.
You've grown from a half to a full, come on.
If we include Lisa and Jen and Jackie, we're up to 5, so. Economic Development Department, I work with, coordinate with all the other departments, whether it's highway, fire, health, finance, building commissioner, community development, assessor's office. I've got my fingers into everything, just coordinating with all the other departments. The 3 things are essential for success: communicate, coordinate, and mission-focused. That seems to be working pretty good. The last 3 years, we've completed 3 of the top 5 water sewer projects on the Water Sewer Commissioner's list since 2012. And that's the infrastructure upgrades to North Street, Gilboa Street, and Northeast Main Street. They've been carrying these projects since 2012 for lack of funds, and within the last 3 years, all 3 projects will be completed. As far as grant awards, so far, we've gotten over $8 million in grant awards. There is still a $4.5 million MassWorks pending. Hopefully, we'll be hearing from that pretty soon. There are 2 site readiness grants still in progress right now. North Street, which is a huge project, $12.7 million project right now. That is for water sewer upgrades, a sidewalk, road, and an elevated water storage tank. Davis and Monroe Street, water sewer design and engineering for water sewer and well exploration. Those are still currently in progress. The Cubes at Pine is one project that we all see being constructed as we speak. I mean, the Cubes at Gilboa, a $120 million, 1.1 million square foot warehouse. The roof should be complete this week. They're about 1/3 of the way with the interior slabs. Their slabs are 48,000 square feet per pour, almost 1,100 cubic yards. I think, Mike, you can relate to the size of that project. There's 25 of those inside that building. Cubes at Pine is the new project. It's $450 million private investment, 2.8 million square feet, 3 buildings. They should be before the planning board, hopefully soon. That is the driving force behind the North Street project. My goal has always been to increase the commercial tax rate from 4%, is when I started many years ago, to get us to at least 20% or more. And that is basically it in a nutshell. There's a lot of construction going on right now, as you probably observed driving through town. North Street and Gilboa are under a pulverization process right now. That should be fully paved Thursday, one day. That will be the base coat. And then we attempt to do the sidewalks. That's resetting the curb, concrete sidewalks, and final overlay within a couple of weeks after that. So after striping, North Street and Gilboa Street should be done. Lackey Dam Road was scheduled for Sunday night. Keeping our fingers crossed on that one. That's the project Matt was alluding to. This week has been really problematic with that project. So that's all I have. That sums up economic development. I know it's quick and dirty, but I know you have a long meeting tonight and you need to get on to other business. So I know Mike appreciates that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Any questions?
Where is Pine in the MEPA process?
They haven't filed their final MEPA review yet, and I'm surprised. But it's an environmental impact report, the EIR, which is the big one. MEPA is giving them a lot of static right now on a lot of projects. Solar projects, they want to solarize these projects, even though there's no state mandate to do so. So they're trying to get ahead of themselves.
And no infrastructure to handle it.
We're working on a big solar project that could be very attractive to the state. That's all I can say at this point. It's in the initial stages, and we could pull it off, but it's going to take a lot of time and effort and coordination.
Another question with the Pine project, he said there's three
buildings.
Warehouse building. Is there room for anything else in there?
Not with those 3 buildings. By the time you do truck parking, employee parking, and stormwater management, retention ponds, there is not much space left. I don't think you could fit a Burger King in there. It is
You're gonna
maxed
try,
out.
though, I know.
But under our zoning, you could, because fast food restaurant is allowed in the industrial zone.
And
I'm just going to lobby
and
for
car
tacos. We don't need any more burgers. Just saying.
Car wash?
Car wash?
Yeah, we gotta get a car wash.
Down the street.
You're never going to lift out the car wash. So that's going to hang around you.
I have just talked to a gentleman who wants to put one in 2 days ago.
I usually
so I'm
wait 8 or
still
10
on
months
it.
before I bring it up to them.
Yeah, I know. But it's a different gentleman every time. That's the problem.
Well, any other questions? No?
You summed it up, Bob.
We're going forward, one step at a time.
Bob, I'll tee one up for you. All the growth in town, how much real dollars has the Douglas taxpayer paid to make this development happen?
Probably $200,000 is what the taxpayer has contributed to these projects. It's been mostly EDA grant awards, the MassWorks Award, a pending award, the Site Readiness Grant Awards. They've totaled over $8.1 million so far.
And certified free cash, I probably might step on your report a little bit, but it's very healthy from what I read earlier. And
I understand it's very healthy. I think Matt mentioned it was the highest in the history of the town at a prior meeting.
so I just want to give you kudos for moving mountains. And
I mean, we're getting building permits, $1 million building permits now, which is helping.
a little bit. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Bob? Okay. So we're going to move on to a discussion on crosswalks for North Street and possible votes.
This item has come up recently with the resurfacing of North Street. There are presently 2 sidewalks. One is, if you have this picture, That's a sidewalk near Charles Street, near the sewer treatment plant, near the bridge. That crosswalk will stay. The crosswalk in question is, if you have this drawing, there's a crosswalk currently crossing North Street to the vicinity of C Street. It goes to nowhere, it goes into the parking lot. Ken Frazier brought up a good idea. Let's relocate this sidewalk to the intersection of North Street and Main Street, and Northeast Main Street, that three-way intersection, and just cross from the north side to the south side to the post office. That's what most of your pedestrian traffic moves anyways. Seeing the highway commissioners will need approval to move this. From what I understand, the state put in all these crosswalks. You've moved a few, eliminated a few throughout the various years.
On the second picture, they talked about moving that crosswalk up to that location of that three-way intersection. I wouldn't be in favor of that because most people that come out of North Street are looking to their left and trying to drive through the stop sign. It's quite the challenge to do it in a vehicle. I can't imagine trying to run across the street with your iced tea or whatever it is that comes out of that store up the street.
The crosswalk is about 30, 40 feet away from the stop sign. It's not at the stop sign.
There already is one there, isn't there?
No, it's at picket fence. The next one is at picket fence.
Yeah, so it's much safer if they walk up to the picket fence and cross the street. That's a very dangerous intersection.
I believe there's already
for
one there.
pedestrian.
Right by the post office?
No, you'll see it right there.
Yeah, you can actually see it.
Yep. It would be my opinion, because you have people within walking distance from C Street, whether that crosswalk comes out of that parking
It's
lot,
actually right next to it, yeah.
to leave that one also, in my opinion.
Okay, but we just need some direction because we're setting curb next week. So whatever you decide, let me know. I will pass it on.
That would allow people from C Street to cross
I would recommend to leave it as is.
North Street.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, this is an old picture from the GIS map. That crosswalk,
It may have been chewed up and paved over by now.
yeah,
It
it's,
might have been plowed off, but it was there.
I looked down the street and the first one I saw was that picket fence. I did not
Yeah,
see
there is
this one.
there, yeah. This one may not have been repainted either, but I know.
And for the
a fact.
same reasons, I wouldn't repaint it. That's
So
a
it doesn't
tough
run,
intersection trying to pull out. People are always looking to their left and they're rolling forward.
Yeah,
It's a tough intersection.
that's a valid point.
So the consensus is repaint the first one, disregard the second one, right?
Keep the first one.
My thought is whatever ones are visible now, leave them as is. That's what the people are used to.
I agree with Mike.
We haven't had anybody at all come in saying, I wish I had a crosswalk here.
Now somebody's gonna come in tomorrow and say that.
And then if they come in tomorrow, then you can always re-vote at the next meeting.
Not after the curb is set.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
hurry up.
All right, somebody want to make a motion on this?
I make a motion to leave the sidewalks as is.
Also, I think crosswalks.
Crosswalks and sidewalks. No, raise the sidewalks up. Make a motion to leave the crosswalks as is.
Second. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, I will pass that information on. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, we have to appoint a select board member for the master plan committee. And go through the memorandum in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81D, the Douglas Planning Board at its public hearing dated September 14, 2023, voted 7-0 in favor to begin the process for updating its master plan. The first step is establishing a subcommittee of the planning board comprised of Douglas citizens. Before connecting with volunteers from the general public, they're wishing to request representation from each of the following boards, commissions, and committees. So they're looking for us, the ZBA, Conservation, Planning, Economic Development Committee, Finance, School Committee, Open Space, and Building and Facilities and Construction Committee. Is anyone on the board interested in being the delegate for the master plan committee?
What exactly does the master plan committee do?
Figure out the master plan.
Yeah.
It's very Pinky in the brain right there.
Lots of cackling and wiggling your finger, master plan.
Do you wear a lab coat?
Those many, many puncture wounds on my back are from master plan processes in the past. This is a fundamental document for the town, both in terms of emergency management, grant applications for whatever forward-looking policy is out there. Master plan, done correctly, is a gentle guide to where the town wants to prioritize development initiatives, either through zoning changes or zoning overlays, and identifies, usually in the course of conversation, the increasing needs of a community that's growing in terms of roadway circulation, municipal services, parking. So it's taking a look at where we will be 10 to 20 years from now and making sure that we don't stifle our ambition or our intentions with antiquated laws, and that we update our zoning code in particular and our subdivision regulations sometimes to accommodate what we think is going to be coming around the corner. Often, master plan process becomes a select board or governing board's method for directing the administration's grant writing activities, because you'll say, well, of all these things that could happen in the town of Douglas, we're really concerned about stormwater, so set all that stuff aside and let's get stormwater activity and get stormwater grants. And so you can see that's when it works the way it's supposed to. We try to get people to serve who have a long track record of being open-minded and deliberate, because a process like this in a larger town, I would not think this would happen in Douglas, but in a larger town, 16,000, 20,000, you can have a small but very vocal and very well-organized minority in town politically take over the master plan process and turn the master plan into what is actually a really divisive document. Now, I've been there, done that. That's what the puncture wounds are from, where folks basically said you're not going to move a blade of grass unless you jump through 10,000 hoops. And then every time somebody came before the planning board, we had a constitutional crisis because we were basically destroying their property rights. So there really has to be that balance there, and it's a thoughtful, based on where our community's values are today, where do we want to see ourselves 10, 15 years from now?
The last master plan was written in '98.
It's been a while.
Yeah, there's a copy of it in the Selectmen's office. Read through it. It's about this thick.
But one of the impacts, a well-done master plan ties back to the financial model for the town. Because if that's where you see yourself, what is your revenue potential in today's dollars? It's that simple. It's a spreadsheet. So if the town's going to be 12,000 people instead of 9,000, you just look at your residential property base and say, well, it's probably going to grow by 33%. What does that yield for revenue? And within that context, you start to plan your resources, especially major borrowings, to put the resources in place you need to serve the town in a way that's measured and not constantly a crisis that everybody's fighting for the last dollar. It's a zero-sum game kind of thing.
Any interest, Max?
I'd be
Make a motion that we approve Max for the,
Jumped right
yeah,
Before you change your mind, good move.
playing hardball, Max. What are we calling this thing, the master plan?
Master Plan Committee.
Master Plan Committee?
Second.
Motion was quickly made by Tim and seconded by Mike. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 No, given my current workload, it's a little much for me to take on.
I just noticed that for that entire discussion, Selectman Smith did not let his eyes make contact with anybody else's.
I had some questions. One of them was the how often they meet per month or, but it's kind of irrelevant at the moment.
Oh, now I feel bad. Did you want to do that?
No, it's, no.
We can make a motion to make him.
We can make a motion to rescind Tim's vote.
We'll leave that up to Maxwell if he wants to.
I mean, if you want it, you can have it, but I'll...
Yeah, he's kind of having second thoughts
Well, I
because it was so
never-
quick to nominate him and second him.
I'm in a position where, similar to Mike, where time frame, I don't want to spread myself too thin. That's why I would have had the question as to how often they meet or.
I got open time to give to it, so I got free time.
That works.
Yeah.
What that, Tim? He's got free time.
He's got free time. What you have to understand is that had you not been here, you would have been nominated for this. That's kind of a long-standing tradition of the board of, oh, you're not at the meeting when there's an appointment? Guess what you just got? Awesome.
Wait, open up on that, Matt.
Yeah. Okay. So, we have to review and approve the temporary rate for public safety, fire, EMS, and possible votes.
So, Mr. Chairman, there's a great many words on this memo. Really what it boils down to is the same issue we had in a prior discussion where the public safety table had that notation under it inadvertently remaining there that said that we were going to start everybody at step one. That is not, that was an earlier version, you cut and pasted with the rest of it. That was largely on me because I created all those tables. The chief at fire and ambulance absolutely needs to be able to have more wiggle room than starting everybody at step one. Somebody comes in the door and says, yeah, I'm a 5-year experienced paramedic full-time in another department. I want to work per diem for you, but I'm not going to accept your step one pay because it's $4 or $5 less per hour than I think it's worth. Then we would lose that person. So I don't want to be stuck with that step one language. So I'm asking that you give, I actually drafted the motion so that it would say what it needs to say, but give us the authority to advertise, negotiate, and establish rates of pay for call firefighters and emergency medical folks at any step of the town meeting approved public safety compensation table. So it goes all the way up to step 5.
This is an easy one. It's already written out for us. Anybody want to take a swag at that one?
I'll make a motion that the chief of the fire and ambulance department, the town administrator, as the appointing authority, be allowed to advertise, negotiate, and establish rates of pay for call firefighters and emergency medical technicians, basic and paramedic, at any step of the public safety compensation table, effective from now until annual town meeting in May 2024.
I'll second that.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this?
No, it's just very well said.
Down myself, yeah.
There you go. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we have meeting minutes and possible votes. In our memo, we have the June 20th, July 5th, and July 18th, to where these are still ongoing, so they're partially approved. So my suggestion is that we pass over the executive session minutes and only vote on the September 19th, 2023 open session. We're passing over those until they're ready.
But they are, I think you can.
They're already approved.
You can approve and hold.
Oh, okay, approve and hold?
And
They're already
only
approved.
holding those
They're not
portions that you
approved.
haven't
Oh,
already
okay.
released.
They were reviewed by Rich Bowen.
Okay.
You need to approve them.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve and retain the June 20, 2023 executive minutes, approve and retain the July 5, 2023 minutes, as well as approve and retain, for the time being, July 18, 2023 minutes, as they're presented in our packet.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So it just leaves us the September 19th open session.
You guys are on your own for that one. That was
You were absent.
my wife's birthday, and I chose not to leave her alone with her murderous thoughts.
You chose wisely.
As
Still
you're
here.
tonight.
She's gonna kill me for even saying that.
So I'll motion to approve the Tuesday, September 19th, 2023 minutes as written.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
All right. Can I make a motion to scratch Tim's last comments from the record?
Do not record that.
So under the discretion is the better part of valid theory. We can. Your report, Mr. Administrator.
I'm going to keep it shockingly brief. We did have a very nice event this past Thursday where we called out the considerable accomplishment of many Douglas employees, past and present, who have given the town more than 20 years of their life. And we, as a committee, there's several of us involved in the committee. Lisa was on the committee. Mrs. Postma was on the committee. Pardon me. Patrice Russo. I'm going to forget. Chris Furno.
Holly Cotton.
And Holly Cottonor.
Got Chris Pupka as well.
And Chris Pupka. So we've had a lot of compensation committees and the overlapping membership, but those are the folks. And every single one of those people really chipped in a great deal, with very generous amounts of their time and effort to pull off the event. The town clerk was right there with the decorations, and Mr. Pupka was cooking all kinds of wild beasts. And there was no
He should be
expense.
officially nominated.
He should be the town
smoker
chef,
for now.
yeah, the town smoker, town barbecue. And I know that Lisa Postma helped out a great deal with Chris Furno's efforts, and it was a very successful event. I think it was well-received. For those who have already retired and are still living, so we really kind of wanted to make sure we caught people. Those plaques over there that now hang on the resource room wall memorialize their service to the town. We're missing one. It's on the way for Mr. Cundiff. But this is going to be our running practice now, that if someone retires, they have more than 20 years of service, their name on a plaque. That is the only thing that is being supported with town funds through the awards and recognition line in the budget. Everything else donated. For those many people who still work for the town and don't seem to have an intention of retiring anytime soon, we resurrected the tiger from the walls of the gym that had been taken away so cruelly by inattentive painting effort by a part of the prisoners who asked after the fact if they were supposed to paint that over, long after the fact. But fortunately, there were photos, and as we all know, the folks from the basketball group put up a plaque outside of the doors of the gym that memorialized that tiger, and we were able to take that photo, and the folks at Salty Dog Embroidery were able to create a graphic for a pullover. So the pullover says Town of Douglas, exceptional service, and it has the tiger on there. So the tiger's back as a source of pride for our employees. There were many, and we've sent out a press release. I know the board was copied on it. Hopefully the local newspapers will pick it up, weekly especially, with lots of photos from the events. Selectman Fitzpatrick was able to attend. I know everybody else was busy. It was during the day. But grateful for all of your support for this effort. It really, we're having such a difficult time just getting people to come work here and stay for a year or two. And then we have this whole group of people collectively represent hundreds of years of experience serving the people at Town of Douglas. So we really are privileged as a community to be able to say that, because there are many towns where you just don't get this level of loyalty and commitment on the part of its employees. So it's a pleasure to work with all of these folks, and an even bigger pleasure to acknowledge what they've contributed. Other than that, a fair amount of what I need to talk to you about is an executive session, and I would like to just get to it.
Works for me. Thanks, Matt. Are there any open session topics not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of this meeting?
I don't know if it would necessarily fall under this category, but I would like to make a request to put it on our next agenda to talk about a moratorium on street opening on all these newly paved roads that we've just spent all this money on.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
Put a moratorium on opening the street, put a new water line or something like that. We just went through all this trouble to create all these roads, and so I've been already started looking into it. There's language that we can put in there that would protect the town's interest.
Not jackhammering holes in it.
Well,
You may have to, but then you force them to restore the pavement.
Right.
That's
right.
Okay. Good point, man. Thanks.
And just for the sake of transparency, that was through a conversation with Bob Sullivan, has a similar concern, or a stronger concern about it, I should say.
You're up, Mr. Bowman.
All right, we'll make a motion that we move into executive session for the sole purposes of, can I say that? Collective bargaining, fire union and police union, and Chapter 61 parcels on Orange Street, that being an interest in real property, and then to leave executive session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Morris, aye.
Bowman, aye.
Aye.